Alec Baldwin.
Oh, yeah.
The Rust shooting.
Right.
Dropped charges.
It
seems like this case,
yeah,
it just keeps making headlines.
it really does.
Even years later.
Uh-huh.
So you've probably heard all the basic details by now, but we're gonna do a deep dive today
Okay.
into some of the lesser known details.
All right.
And specifically Baldwin's own perspective
Okay.
from a recent interview that he did on David Duchovny's podcast.
Interesting.
Fail Better.
Okay.
So have you had a chance to listen to that?
I have, yeah. It's a really fascinating interview.
Okay. Yeah.
Baldwin really opens up, I think, about the aftermath of that 2021 incident where the cinematographer Helena Hutchins was tragically killed.
Right.
And he doesn't shy away from expressing, I think, his frustration, his anger, particularly with how he feels he was portrayed.
It's interesting you say that because, he uses some really strong language in this interview.
Yeah. Right.
He even claims that, like, a large portion of America wanted to see him either dead, imprisoned, or completely canceled.
Yeah.
He really felt like he was just a target.
Yeah.
What do you think led him to feel that way?
Well, I mean,
I think the initial media coverage.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of factors.
Okay.
You know, he definitely points to the media's portrayal of the event and feels they kind of jump to conclusions about his culpability.
Right.
He also mentions, you know, feeling betrayed by people he once considered allies.
Oh, wow.
But, you know, one key element to remember here is that the involuntary manslaughter charges against Baldwin were dismissed with prejudice back in July 2024.
By prejudice.
Yeah.
And for our listeners who might not be familiar with that term, what does that mean?
It means the prosecution cannot bring those same charges against him again.
Oh, wow.
So
that's it.
Yeah, that's it for those charges.
Okay.
So this dismissal was understandably a huge relief for him.
Sure.
And, you know, he believes that a full trial would have ultimately cleared his name completely.
So he sees this dismissal as vindication.
He does. Yeah.
But he still feels incredibly wronged by the whole process.
Yes.
And he even claims that there was misconduct by law enforcement and prosecutors alleging they withheld crucial evidence. But wouldn't that have come out if the case had gone to a full trial?
Yeah, that's a point a lot of legal experts have raised.
Okay.
You know, while Baldwin believes a trial would have exonerated him, there's no guarantee of that outcome.
Sure.
Legal proceedings are so complex.
Of course.
And a trial could have uncovered additional information.
Yeah.
Not all of it necessarily favorable to Baldwin.
Right.
But it's worth noting that the armorer in this case, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, wasn't as fortunate.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's a stark contrast in outcomes.
Yeah.
She was convicted of involuntary manslaughter.
Yeah.
Yes. And is now serving an 18-month prison sentence.
That's right.
The prosecution successfully argued that she was ultimately responsible for live ammunition being on the set and failing to follow established safety protocols.
Right.
But how can there be such different outcomes
for
two individuals both involved in the same tragic incident?
This really gets to the heart of the complexities of assigning responsibility in such a tragedy.
Of course.
While the focus was on Baldwin initially, you know, due to his celebrity status and the fact that he was holding the gun, the legal system ultimately determined that Gutierrez-Reed, as the armorer, had a specific duty of care to ensure the safety of the weapons on set.
Right.
And you might be wondering, you know, how live ammunition could even end up on a film set in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's precisely what the prosecution set out to prove in her case.
So while Baldwin is looking ahead, hoping to return to work, he's also adamant about unearthing what he calls the unknown aspects of the case.
Right.
He's on a mission to find what he considers the real story. Even though the legal proceedings have concluded, it makes you think about how the pursuit of truth can extend far beyond the courtroom.
It's a human response to trauma, I think, to want to understand and make sense of what happened.
Sure.
And for Baldwin, that includes challenging the narrative that he believes has been unfairly constructed around him.
It raises the question, can there ever be a singular, universally accepted truth in these kinds of cases that are so complex and emotionally charged?
Yeah, it's a good question.
So what stands out to you as the most thought-provoking element of this whole story?
I think for me, it's the tension between individual accountability and the complex, multi-layered nature of film production.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that assigning blame, even when legally justified, doesn't always capture the full picture of how these tragedies unfold.
That is a sobering thought to end on.
Yeah.
Well, this deep dive just scratched the surface.
Sure.
If you're interested in exploring this further, I encourage you to listen to Baldwin's full interview.
I agree.
And delve into the complexities of this case.
Yeah.
It's a story that continues to raise really important questions.
Right.
About responsibility, truth, and the lasting impact of tragedy.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, Ed.
And we'll see you next time.
See you later.